She sat crying alone in her car at 3 a.m. until a stranger spoke the devastating truth. The darkness outside pressed against the windows, thick and suffocating, as Sarah sat hunched over, the glow of her phone lighting up tear-streaked cheeks. Each sob echoed in the stillness of the parking lot, fading into the night. It was 3 a.m., the witching hour, when shadows grew longer and the world felt most alone. This was the moment where hope seemed to slip away, a thread unraveling in her grasp, leaving her gasping for air in her own turmoil. The headlights of passing cars transformed her refuge into something of a stage, illuminating her heartache for fleeting seconds before fading into the ink-black void. Moments earlier, a replay of her shattered dreams haunted her. Just days ago, she had walked the aisle, a picture of joy in a white dress. Now, that joy felt like bitter salt in a fresh wound. Her hands trembled, fingers dancing restlessly across the steering wheel as she struggled to regain her composure. The world outside seemed vibrantly alive, muffled laughter, distant music, but it felt like a cruel mirage, mocking her in her solitude. And just as the weight of despair felt too heavy to bear, a light tapped softly on her window. It startled her, and she whipped her head around, meeting the concerned gaze of a stranger. He stood tall, the moon casting him in an otherworldly glow. On his face was a mix of empathy and intrigue that drew Sarah in, even if her heart raced with apprehension. "Are you okay?" he asked, his voice gentle yet firm. She hesitated, eyes searching for something in answer. A reason? It was like a spell woven tightly around the two of them. The world outside began to blur. It was just them now, lost in a moment that could change everything. Before we continue, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. He stepped back slightly, scrutinizing her the way a sculptor evaluates a block of stone, seeing potential where she saw only broken fragments. "It's okay to not be okay," he continued, as if he had plucked the words right from her mind. A chill ran down her spine as his gaze pierced through her facade. Could he see it all, the betrayal, the loss? She felt her breath hitch, a lump forming in her throat as she pondered if this stranger could truly understand the depths of her pain. But just as she opened her mouth to speak, an unexpected siren wailed in the distance, cutting through the fragile connection like glass shattering on a floor. Her heart raced as the stranger's expression fell, shifting from concern to urgency. The night was still, but tension hung thick in the air. What did he know that she didn't? Questions spiraled through Sarah's mind, each more perplexing than the last. The stranger leaned in closer, lowering his voice. "Sometimes the truth isn't what we want to hear, but it's what we need." She could feel a shiver run through her, a mix of fear and anticipation. What did he mean? What truth was lurking just under the surface? The weight of unasked questions loomed heavier than before, tightening the grip on her chest. And as the sirens faded into the night, leaving her in a lingering silence, Sarah stared deep into his eyes, feeling like the answer to everything was just out of reach. But the question remained. Was she ready to confront it? The air shifted between them, thick with unspoken words. Sarah's heart pounded in her chest, each beat feeling like a countdown. The stranger's eyes were steady, trying to pull her from the darkness that shrouded her soul. Yet as she stared, a sense of danger prickled at her skin. Shadows seemed to dance around them, and for a moment, she wondered if everything was just a cruel illusion crafted in the depths of her despair. "Who are you?" she managed to whisper, her voice barely breaking past the lump in her throat. She clutched the steering wheel tightly, feeling its coldness seep into her palms. The world outside was waiting, indifferent, chaotic, but here in this moment, they were the only two beings that mattered. The stranger's lips curled slightly, as if he expected the question. "A friend, maybe." He took a step closer, lowering his voice to an intimate whisper. "But I need you to listen closely. Your life is in danger." His words sliced through her haze of sadness, freezing her. "What do you mean?" Panic clawed at her, and in that moment, despair became overshadowed by something far worse. Someone is looking for you, he continued, urgency creeping into his tone. They want something you have. Sarah shook her head, confusion and fear twisting together. I don't understand. What do they want? A flicker of movement at the edge of the parking lot made the stranger tense. We don't have time. I can help you, but you have to trust me. His intensity was undeniable, drawing her in. The weight of grief seemed to lift just a little, replaced by something new, fear, maybe? Or was it the faint spark of hope? I can't just leave, she began, glancing at her phone. The texts that had shattered her were still a stark reminder of her reality. But somewhere inside, something shifted. She could feel the darkness creeping back, threatening to pull her under again if she remained alone. What if I just want to go home? Home is the last place you should be right now. His voice was low, urgent. Trust me, Sarah, you don't know what you're walking into. For a second, she hesitated. She felt as if the universe tilted, and the ground beneath her was dangerously unsteady. Was he telling the truth, or was this just madness wrapped in an alluring form? Before she could respond, the echo of footsteps approached from behind. Heavy, deliberate. The stranger's eyes widened, and in one swift motion, he yanked the car door open, his grip firm around her wrist. Get in, he commanded, urgency lacing his words. She fumbled with fear, instinctively wanting to pull back. But the grip on her wrist was solid, grounding. Please, just a moment, she breathed, a final attempt to reconnect with the reality that had just begun to unravel. She could feel the cold grip of despair and panic wrestling within her. Every instinct screamed for her to flee, yet every heartbeat urged her to move forward. Now, he rasped, glancing over his shoulder as shadows lengthened ominously in the distance, slipping into shapes that morphed into figures. The truth, whatever it was, loomed closer. Without fully understanding what drew her, she climbed out of the car, adrenaline igniting her senses. The stranger's urgency bled into her own, and they made a frantic sprint away from the parking lot, heart racing as her breaths turned shallow. With every step, she felt the past slip behind her, but was it enough? Did she truly want to know the truth he held? A chill danced along her spine, and she stole a glance back. The figures were gone, but the air around them was thick. Something else was coming. Do you really want to know what you've gotten yourself into? He asked, his tone somber and almost reverent. And just like that, she stood at the edge of an entirely new reality, and the only question left was, would she be brave enough to face whatever awaited her? The tires screeched against the asphalt as they fled the parking lot, the sound echoing into the night like a warning. Sarah's heart raced, pumping adrenaline through her veins. The shadows remained, unfurling like dark tendrils behind them, lurking just out of sight. Every instinct she had screamed at her to stop, to run back to the safety of familiarity, yet the stranger pulled her forward, his grip unwavering. Where are we going? She gasped, trying to keep pace. Fear surged through her like a tidal wave, threatening to swallow her whole. Somewhere safe, he said, glancing over his shoulder. Trust me, it's our best shot. The urgency in his voice was laced with desperation, visibly unnerving. His eyes darted left and right, scanning for signs of danger. Safe? The word felt hollow, an empty promise etched in the dark. But there was no choice. The faint echoes of her past assumed phantom shapes behind her in the night, as if the pain she thought she could outrun was chasing her down. They turned a corner and crashed into the remnants of a once bustling street, now desolate and lined with flickering streetlights. The world felt surreal, painted in shades of gray under the harsh illumination. After what felt like an eternity, they skidded to a halt beside a ramshackle building. It loomed like a sentinel guard, stark against the inky darkness. Here, get in, he urged, almost dragging her inside. The door creaked open, revealing a world illuminated by a single flickering bulb. Dust motes swirled in the beam of light, casting eerie shadows on the cracked walls. Sarah hesitated, her heart still pounding violently. What is this place? A hideout. No one comes here. He stepped inside, his eyes full of intent. There was something raw and real about those eyes, catching her within their orbit. I promise you'll be safe. For now. She followed, though every step felt like walking through quicksand. The air inside was stale, carrying whispers of lost dreams and forgotten secrets. Now listen, he said, gazing deep into her eyes. The people looking for you won't stop hunting until they find you. What do they want? The question clawed at her throat, rising to the surface. Anxiety wrapped around her heart, squeezing tightly. It's not just you, it's what you carry. What do you mean? He took a deep breath, as if preparing to dive into cold water. There's something hidden within you, something important. They believe it's the key to control everything. His voice dropped to a harsh whisper. Their power is terrifying. The weight of his words crashed around her like waves. She felt nauseous, her world spinning off its axis. Thoughts of betrayal, isolation, and confusion stormed in her mind. Why her? What am I supposed to do? She breathed, the question slipping from her lips. Embrace the truth you've buried, he urged. You must remember who you are. Only then can you find a way out. A blast of sound echoed from outside, a deep rumble accompanied by shouts, growing louder and nearer. Her heart sank with a prickling sense of dread. They're here. He grabbed her wrist again and moved quickly to the back of the building. They've found us. The adrenaline kicked in as panic erupted. They had no time. The gathering storm approached with purpose, but buried beneath her fear was a flicker of determination. Who are they? Sarah demanded, terrified yet resolute, needing to understand the contours of this chaotic reality. People who were once like me, but now they belong to a darkness deeper than you can imagine. He glanced back at her, urgency lighting his features. And it's coming for you. A chill crept down her spine as the shadows outside began to whisper her name. But I can't face them. The door creaked, and just then, the unmistakable sound of heavy boots echoed off the pavement sharply. Sarah, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. You can't turn back. You're already in this. Face it now, or it will destroy you. With seconds to react, she felt the heat of adrenaline coursing through her, setting every sense on edge. What was she willing to confront? What? Truth lay ahead. Are you ready? He asked, the tension crackling between them. As the door slammed open and shadows poured in, she felt the world tilt once more. And in an instant, she had to decide, was she ready to fight for her life, or would she let the darkness take her? The door burst open, splintering the silence of their hideout as dark shapes surged into the space. The stranger's grip tightened around Sarah's wrist, yanking her away from the encroaching gloom. Her chest heaved with fear, instincts screaming for her to flee, but she stood rooted, the weight of his words pulling her back. Go, now, he shouted, his eyes wide with urgency. She stumbled forward, adrenaline coursing through her veins while the shadows swept past them like a river, searching for her. There was no time to question. The instinct to survive overpowered her fear. They dashed deeper into the building, the sound of clattering boots echoing against cracked concrete walls. Where do we go? Sarah gasped, her lungs burning with exertion. There's a basement, he panted back, glancing over his shoulder. We can hide there, at least for a moment. They skidded to a halt at a rusted metal door half hidden in the shadows of a hallway. He shoved it open and they plunged into the darkness below, heaving the door shut behind them. The air was musty and thick, the kind that clung to the back of her throat and churned her stomach. Stay here, he whispered, peering through a narrow window at the top of the stairs, barely illuminated by a flickering bulb above, as flickers of movement echoed above. I'll check if it's clear. She nodded, crouching low, her heart thudding so loud in her ears it felt like a drumbeat of impending doom. The shadows danced outside, and Sarah pressed her back against the cold, damp wall. Questions assaulted her thoughts. What was so important about her? Why were these people hunting her? She had never felt significant in her life, a ghost among the living. And now, the world she thought she knew was unraveling like a fraying thread. Suddenly, a muffled shout rang from above, a voice booming with authority, demanding answers. Her heart dropped as she recognized the voice of former colleague, someone once trusted. Their laughter had filled the break room, but that was before the darkness descended. He stepped back into the basement, urgency etched in every line of his face. They're searching through the building. We need to find another way out. Why can't we just fight? She suggested, the words tasting bitter on her tongue. I can't run forever. Because you don't know what they've become. They're no longer just people, they're monsters in pursuit of power. His voice dropped, urgency keeping him focused. You are the only one left who can stop them. A flicker of hope pierced through her anxiety. What do you mean? His eyes bore into hers, the intensity almost blinding. You need to harness what lies within you. It can unlock the door to their bloodlust. Her brow furrowed. But how? I don't even know what that is. I can help you remember, he said. But first we must survive this. A loud crash followed by an ominous silence suggested the shadows were breaking through. Her heart raced as they both crouched low, hearts pounding as silence hung in the air like a haunting fog. Overhead, footsteps clattered and heavy breathing reverberated through the basement walls, a stark reminder of their fragility against the oncoming threat. What are they going to do to me? She whispered, trembling. I wish I could promise it would be okay, he replied, his voice barely above a whisper. But you have to trust me. Remember yourself, Sarah. Embrace the truth. Before she could respond, a sudden thud hit the door. Panic surged within her, and she felt trapped, the walls closing in. Get ready to run, he whispered fiercely, pushing back to the door but freezing as the wood creaked ominously underfoot. With every second, she could feel the darkness creeping closer, clawing its way through. Now, he shouted, fear etched into his every feature. They bolted for the exit, electricity buzzing in the air, the thrill of survival battling with deep-seated terror as they rushed toward what might be freedom. One thought loomed, could she really confront what lay ahead? And in that moment, Sarah wondered if escaping would be enough, or if deeper truths awaited. Just beyond the surface of their fraying reality, a final click echoed through the air, and somewhere behind them, a chilling, familiar voice pierced through the tension, sending shivers down her spine. Sarah, you can't escape your destiny. The abyss beckoned, and she didn't know whether to run, fight, or hide. It was the moment of truth, and she knew she had to decide what was she ready to face. They sprinted through the basement, the darkness swallowing them like a living entity. The air was thick with tension as Sarah's thoughts raced. Who was she really? What did they want from her? Each question felt like a weight in her chest, pressing down harder with every echo of footsteps above. The stranger paused at a wall lined with old piping. We need to blend in. There should be an old maintenance tunnel here somewhere. He fumbled along the wall as Sarah's eyes darted around. The shadows felt alive, creeping in on them. The flickering bulb at the top of the stairs struggled against the encroaching darkness, but its dim light was the only thing keeping panic at bay. Suddenly, he found it a hidden door, chipped paint barely holding against the rugged concrete. He swung it open, and a rush of stale air greeted them from within. Go, he urged, shoving her inside. She stumbled forward into a narrow passage, the wood beneath her feet creaking like a warning. He followed closely, shutting the door with a swift and silent motion. I remember this, he murmured, trailing his fingers along the damp walls. If we can reach the other end, we'll find an exit to the alley. Each step felt treacherous, like a minefield ready to explode. Sarah strained to hear any sound of pursuit, the heavy silence around them oppressive. But the truth weighed heavier than any footsteps. What if she couldn't fight? What if she didn't have what it took to stop the monsters? Sarah, he whispered, breaking through her spiraling thoughts. You must focus. Remember what you feel. They'll come for you. They're relentless. I can't, she admitted, her voice barely a whisper. I can't remember anything. I'm just me. You're more than that. You have the potential to change everything. His desperation flooded her senses, and, for a moment, she could almost see the glimmer of hope in his eyes, just a flicker. Trust in yourself even when the shadows become overwhelming. They pressed on, the tunnel closing in around them. With every footfall, the notion of escape began to drift, replaced instead by fear of failing, of what awaited her if they caught up. Abruptly, the distant sound of shouting echoed down the tunnel. Panic surged within her. Do they know we're here? Sarah's voice trembled. No yet, but they're hunting for a scent, and yours is strong. He eyed her, urgency sharpening his features. Remember why you must fight. Your life depends on it. With each heartbeat, realization began to claw its way into her consciousness. Perhaps she wasn't just ordinary. Maybe she wasn't as naive as she had believed. There was a spark inside her, one her mind had buried in fear. The thought ignited her resolve. Then, a scream echoed through the air, a haunting sound that sent shocks down her spine. It came from above. The world they had just fled sounded like a forgotten nightmare revived. We need to move faster, he shouted, pulling her forward, but the tunnel suddenly widened, revealing vast darkness that led into an abyss. Sarah hesitated, dread pooling in her stomach. What if it leads to nowhere? Or it leads to your awakening? He insisted, his voice an anchor amidst the swirling chaos. You need to decide. Face the lurking shadows ahead, or return to what you've left behind. Panic clawed at her. Failure was a heavy rain cloud over her head. But behind her, footsteps thundered, growing louder. They were coming. Their relentless pursuit fueled with determination. Now, Sarah, he urged. With a mixture of fear and determination, she plunged forward into the deep unknown. The walls pulsed as if the tunnel itself breathed, the darkness swallowing them whole. What awaited beyond? Would she emerge stronger, or would the shadows consume her completely? Her heart raced, caught between the thrill of the unknown and the weight of her destiny. As she stepped deeper, a chilling voice echoed through the tunnel, mocking and familiar. Sarah, the truth awaits you. Embrace it or suffer the consequences. Panic seized her. Where were they leading her? The darkness loomed heavier than ever, leaving her to question if she was truly ever ready for what lay ahead, or if destiny was a chain she could never escape. The tunnel stretched endlessly, agonizing echoes of the distant shout still ringing in her ears. Sarah felt herself slipping into the void, the shadows pulling at her mind. It was all too much. Fragments of her past danced just out of reach, and for a moment, she felt like her own enemy, shackled by fear. But the stranger beside her wooed let her falter. Keep moving, he urged, his voice tinged with urgency. The flickering light of the bulb had vanished behind them. All they had was each other, and this suffocating darkness. As they advanced, a low hum seemed to rise from the very walls, vibrating through her bones. It made her skin crawl, but she pressed on, fueled by the resolve ignited from their exchange moments before. There was more to her. She sensed it, like a whisper, clawing to break free. Sarah, the stranger called out, snapping her focus back to the present. Stay with me. I need you aware. The mention of her name sent a shiver down her spine, awaking something primal inside her, a surge of adrenaline. What if I can't control it? The fear slipped from her lips before she could stop it. I promise you, it's in there, he insisted, his breath harsh and quick. You just have to believe it's in you. Let it become your ally. Ahead, shadows slicked over the ground like oil. They wound and curled, almost sentient in their pursuit. Just beyond them was a flicker of light, a beacon pushing through the thick darkness. The heart of the tunnel seemed to shift, narrowing and contracting as they moved. Do you see that? She gasped, pointing. Yes, that's it. His excitement pierced through her anxious shell. Just a little further. The light shimmered. It held a promise she longed to grasp. But as they neared, something shifted. The voice returned, swirling around them, a cold presence that sent a chill racing up her spine. You can't escape your fate, Sarah, it hissed. You were never meant to run. She recoiled, a weight settling in her gut. What is happening? The words emerged as a soft whimper, weighted with confusion and terror. We're almost there, he shouted, pushing onward as the dark murmur grew louder. Keep going. Don't listen to it. But it was too compelling. The voice now seemed to come from within her, echoing her deepest fears. They chose you. This chase, it's all you've ever known. No, Sarah cried, shaking her head violently as if to dislodge the words. The light was so close now, almost merely a stretch away. But was it worth it? The truth, whatever it might be, felt like a shackle waiting to bind her. Abruptly, the walls of the tunnel shuddered. Go, the stranger yelled. He tugged her forward, his grip like iron against the rising tide of doubt. But as they reached the light, a sudden jolt struck the tunnel, throwing them both against the concrete wall. The whispers rose to a frenzied cacophony, drowning out all reason. Your past will consume you. Embrace it. Embrace who you really are. Dazed, Sarah peeked through the tremors of light. What lay ahead? Freedom or entrapment? The stranger yanked her back before she could let the light pull her any closer. Not yet. You're not ready, he shouted, but the shadows stirred, eager and restless, coiling around their ankles, dragging them down. A doorway had emerged, just beyond the light, yet it felt shrouded in an unsettling energy. Make a choice, he pleaded, desperation lining his features. The walls behind them trembled again, closing in, and she felt the panic in the air, smell the metallic tang of fear. Sarah could barely breathe, her heart pounding like a war drum. Then, the shadow's voice crescendoed, blaring promises of power, taunting her with flashes of clarity. All that you wanted can be yours. Just let go, she shuddered, caught in the crossfire of her own resolve and terror. The doorway loomed ahead, and beyond it lay the truths: what she was, what they wanted. Sarah. Time halted, a choice hanging pregnant in the air. Do I embrace the darkness or confront my own light? A final tremor surged through the tunnel, and she found herself teetering on the brink. The world around them twisted, shadows pulsating with life. What awaited her in the blinding light? Or would she be consumed before she could even choose? The weight of uncertainty mingled with a glimmer of hope, forcing her to decide amidst the storm: was she ready to step into the unknown? As she made her choice, the ground shook violently beneath her, and the choice seemed to slip from her grasp. The earth trembled with a deafening roar, as if the very foundation of the tunnel was coming apart. Sarah's heart raced, a wild animal trapped in a cage of confusion and terror. The light ahead shimmered, teasing her with the promise of answers, yet feeling dangerously close to a perilous descent. No, she shouted, the sound lost in the chaos. She felt the shadows closing in, encircling her like hungry wolves, whispering sweet nothings of her fate. She wavered, mind reeling as if caught in a cyclone. She wanted to reach for the light, to understand, but fear twisted her heart into knots. Don't close your eyes, the stranger screamed, his grip tightening as he pulled her back from the brink of madness. Trust me, you have what it takes. His voice surged through the cacophony, a lifeline in the tempest. In that chaotic moment, she felt the flicker of something inside her, a flame of defiance igniting against the shadows. I'm scared. She hadn't meant to admit it, but the truth spilled out regardless: a raw, open wound. Fear is a part of it, he said, urgency etched on his face. Embrace it, don't fight it. You need to channel it. Before she could process his words, the shadows lunged, tendrils of darkness dancing closer, threatening to pull her down into the abyss. The earlier whispers transformed into a piercing scream, clawing into her consciousness. You belong to us, Sarah. You've always belonged to us. Her chest tightened, the suffocating heaviness of dread wrapping around her like a vice. But then she recalled the flicker of hope, the light that promised clarity. She turned her gaze back toward it, bolstered by her stranger's unwavering confidence. Think about what you want, he urged, his voice rising above the turmoil. What do you want, Sarah? The question landed heavily in her mind. What did she want? Was it truly freedom from the past, the very thing that had haunted her? She squeezed her eyes shut for a heartbeat, summoning all the warmth she could find. For the first time, she envisioned stepping past the darkness, confronting whatever awaited on the other side. I want to be free, she cried, surprising even herself with the fierceness of her declaration. I don't want to be a prisoner to my fear. With those words, a surge of energy spiraled within her, propelling her forward as the shadows writhed in protest. She felt the stranger beside her pull, and together they charged toward the doorway, the way lit by an ethereal glow that promised revelation. But just as they reached the threshold, the ground quaked violently, a deep rumble that felt bone-shaking. You can't just leave, the shadows shrieked, a chorus of maddening voices intertwined with fury. You're tied to us, your destiny is sealed. Sarah stumbled, uncertainty clawing at her resolve, fear creeping back in like a snake in the grass. The light ahead flickered, flickering like a dying flame, and with it, her courage began to flicker too. Was she truly ready to sever the ties that bound her to the past? Sarah, keep moving, the stranger shouted, his determination electrifying her with a sense of urgency. In that moment, she hesitated, glancing back at the maelstrom of darkness that had been her life. And in that chaos, she spotted something, a glimpse of a figure lurking in the shadows, eyes glimmering with malice. They were watching her, waiting. Who are you? She gasped, dread clenching her heart. Do you really think you can escape, Sarah? The figure taunted, a voice both chilling and familiar, the shadows wrapping around it like a cloak of despair. Her mind raced. Who was this entity that dared to lay claim to her choices? The ground shifted again beneath them, and her time was running out. Make your choice. The stranger's voice called again, fierce and insistent. As the shadows thrashed violently at her heels, Sarah felt a surge of defiance. The doorway was there. The choice was there. Step into the light or confront the darkness and all it held. What awaited her on the other side? And who was that watching? The answers felt tantalizingly close, yet fear still clawed at her every breath. The shadows surged, the sinister figure looming larger, almost swallowing the tunnel whole. Sarah's breath quickened, each inhale a desperate plea for strength. She felt the stranger's presence beside her, grounding her, yet the grasp of darkness tightened, its icy fingers wrapping around her ankles like chains. Sarah. The stranger's voice cut through the chaos like a bolt of lightning. We don't have much time. You must decide now. But how? How could she choose when every instinct told her to flee from the figure that knew her name? The memories, like phantoms, clawed at her sanity. What did it know? What secrets did the shadows keep? Embrace me, the voice whispered, smooth and sibilant, echoing within the hollow of her heart. You and I are one always have been. It felt like a deep well of despair had opened inside her, threatening to pull her in. She shook her head violently, yet the soft hum of the figure's voice wrapped around her senses, enticing her with promises of understanding. You were never meant to be free, Sarah. You are destined to carry our burden. No, Sarah screamed, her command bouncing off the walls of the tunnel like a trapped echo. She felt the flames of her defiance rekindle, fierce and desperate. I am not a prisoner. With every ounce of willpower, she willed herself to focus on the light, a beacon in the storm. I want to be my own, she cried, the walls vibrating with her fierce declaration. The shadows recoiled as if struck. The figure faltered, revealing fleeting glimpses of hurt and rage. You will regret this, it hissed, the familiar voice twisting into something unrecognizable, cold as ice. Do not listen to them, Sarah, the stranger urged, his grip unwavering against the terror. We have to move. Trust yourself. The darkness shrieked, an unholy wail that fumbled over itself in its fury. Tendrils lurched forward, grappling for her, but Sarah pushed against the fear, letting the flame of courage flood her senses. She turned back, locking on the glow of the exit just beyond the shadows. Let us go, she shouted, pulling the stranger along. They surged forward, dodging the snapping darkness, urgency propelling them through the chaos. As they charged toward the threshold, the walls boomed with anguished cries, each reverberation tearing at the very fabric of her resolve. You can't escape. You belong to us. The shadows pressed in, a tide of dark energy threatening to drown them. But there was no turning back. No hesitations. They burst through the doorway, spilling into a world alive with blinding light, a stark contrast to the suffocating darkness they had just left. Except the brightness exposed a terrifying truth. The light flickered but revealed a desolate landscape of twisted trees and barren ground. Sky was torn with swirling clouds that mirrored her storm-tossed heart. Heart racing, Sarah looked around, searching for answers, searching for the stranger. What is this place? The question escaped her lips, a fragile whisper, as dread clawed its way back into her chest. I don't know, he said, his voice steady. But we need to keep moving. There's no safety here. Just then, a shadow flickered at the edges of their new reality. A reminder that something was watching, biding its time. The eerie familiarity returned, the whispers swirling around as if echoing through the barren world, stinging her ears. You can't hide from us, the haunting voice slithered through the shadows, echoing the sentiments from before. You cannot escape your truth, Sarah. A chill ran down her spine. She could feel her heart pound against her ribs as panic clawed back inside. What truth? What awaited her here, in this strange light-infused darkness? And what if, despite their escape, the shadows still had hold of her soul? Her grip on the stranger's hand tightened as she made a choice. Flee this place? Confront the darkness head-on? Ahead, the silhouette of something monstrous began to take shape, its jaws parting wide, waiting. The confrontation loomed on the horizon, and the inevitable question echoed in her mind, thrumming like a heartbeat. Would she face the monster of her past or succumb to the fears that had long held her prisoner? The monstrous silhouette loomed larger, its form twisting, ever-changing. Sarah's breath hitched in her throat. The stranger, still by her side, stepped protectively in front of her. A cold wind swept through the empty landscape, carrying with it echoes of past regrets and heart-wrenching memories. "Stay behind me," he urged, but Sarah felt a fierce fire igniting inside her. This was no time to cower. Not anymore. "What? What do you want?" she called out to the creature, voice trembling but defiant. Every instinct wanted to run, but something deeper pushed her forward. The shape shifted, revealing sharp, glinting teeth and eyes that burned with an unholy fire. "You know what I want, Sarah." The voice resonated like a hollow drum, a chilling mix of familiarity and malice. "You must accept your true self." "Not again," she shouted, shaking her head violently. The shadows whispered her name, twisting their words like blades. Grasping the stranger's hand, she could feel his warmth, a reminder of humanity lurking against the encroaching darkness. "Listen to me," he said, leaning closer, his voice urgent. "Your strength is here, within you. Remember who you are. You are not defined by these shadows." The creature erupted in a furious laugh, a sound that echoed through the hollow landscape. "Strength? Such a fragile illusion. You are a vessel for the darkness, and it craves a home." "No, I'm not a vessel." She felt waves of emotion crash over her, a storm of fear and defiance battling within. "I am more than this." With each word, the shadows surged forward, tendrils of darkness creeping toward her like a choking fog. A desperate urge to run flashed through her mind, but she stood firm. "Do you think just denying it will make it go away?" The creature hissed, its voice dripping with contempt. "You cannot deny your darkness, sweet Sarah. It will only grow stronger. Embrace it." Every part of her screamed to look away, to give in to the terror washing over her. Her heart raced, pounding a steady rhythm in her chest. "I will not be afraid," she cried out, and for a heartbeat, silence fell. Then, a resonant roar of wind surrounded them, swirling around the stranger and her. The shadows writhed, hesitating, as if unsure. In that moment of hesitation, furrows deep within her soul began to unravel. Memories flashed her childhood, hard losses, mistakes, and the terrifying thought that her past had the power to define her future. "No," Sarah shouted, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I see you. You were part of me, but you don't control me." The creature's grin faltered, confusion flickering in its fiery eyes. A rush of resolve surged through her, fueled by the stranger's unwavering presence. She stepped forward, her voice a clarion call against the chaos. "I will own my truth, not let it own me." The shadows shrieked viscerally, as if recoiling from her fierce proclamation. The ground beneath her feet vibrated with energy. Light burst anew, illuminating the desolate terrain. For the first time, Sarah felt hope creeping into her heart, intertwining with her resistance against darkness. But the creature lashed out, its massive claws slashing through the air. "You will pay for this defiance," it thundered, rage igniting its form. As the air turned thick with anticipation, Sarah stood rooted, daring to confront the luminous dawning realization that her fear might finally be her strength. Was she really ready to fight? To confront not just the monster behind her, but the one within? Time slowed, a fragile moment stretching into infinity. The choice sparkled before her, clarity piercing through the chaos. Just as the creature lunged, Sarah felt the weight of every decision, every failure, every ounce of her suffering. What would becoming her own truth truly mean? Would she find the strength to stand against her own shadows, or would her past swallow her whole? The moment hung in the air, heart-stopping, thunderous, and electric. Sarah stood, grounded against the chaos swirling around her, caught between fear and defiance. The creature loomed, a twisted reflection of everything she had battled within. Shadows cringed at her feet, whispering taunts, trying to pull her back into unyielding despair. But the light beamed brighter with every breath she took. It pierced through the veil of darkness with the promise of clarity, the prospect of truth. Sarah locked eyes with the creature, feeling the weight of every doubt pour from her in that instant. "I am not here to embrace you," she declared, her voice rising, powerful and unwavering. "I am here to face you." The truth gathered in her heartbeat, echoing her resolve. The creature twisted itself, fury igniting its form. "You think you can fight what lies within? You are but a pawn in this game," it bellowed, a burst of shadows whipping around it like a storm spiraling out of control. Yet, within her, Sarah could feel the stranger's warmth, the unyielding belief radiating from him, a lifeline in the wilderness. "It's time to confront your past," he urged, stepping closer, his eyes aflame with conviction. "You have the power to rewrite your destiny. Embrace it." With a fierce breath, Sarah nodded. She felt her spirit lift, swirling against the encroaching shadows. "You are but a reflection of my fears," she shouted, each word solidifying her foundation. "And I refuse to let you define me any longer." As the creature lunged, time warped, her heart racing against its infernal howls. "You belong to us," echoed in her mind, but so did the fiery echo of her own thoughts, a spark igniting into a roar. "No, this is my life." With a forceful stride, she stepped forward, the ground trembling under a surge of inner strength. The shadows quivered, their hold faltering as she gathered the weight of her truth. The light around her flared, every inch of it alive with potential. "I choose to own my story," she bellowed, each syllable reaching deeper into the darkness, coaxing strength out of fear, turning pain into purpose. The landscape seemed to crack open, revealing a horizon of turbulent storms above a chaotic sky, transforming as she pulled her truth from the depths of her soul, realizing that her history did not shackle her but shaped who she was capable of becoming. The creature screeched, a high-pitched wail that seemed to shake the ground. Its fury morphed into fear, and that only fueled her determination. "You are not my truth," she declared, and with that, the light surged brighter. The shadows recoiled, terrified. With a final, fierce roar, the creature launched towards her, but Sarah stood firm, allowing her strength to cascade through every fiber of her being. She lifted her arms, palms open wide, inviting her truth to flow. "I will be whole. I will be free." In an explosive burst of light, the walls of darkness shattered, splintering into oblivion as the creature howled, fading amidst the brilliance. The piercing voices of doubt and despair evaporated into nothingness. She felt herself being unbound, finally liberated from the chains of the past. Then, everything fell silent. The light pulsed around her, illuminating a new path that stretched ahead, a fresh world bathed in expectations yet to be written. She took a deep breath, her heart racing, feeling a sense of weightlessness coursing through her. Sarah the stranger's voice broke through, gentle yet triumphant. He stepped beside her, his eyes full of pride and understanding. "You did it. You faced it." She looked into his eyes, relief flooding her. "I did," she whispered, realizing the vast expanse of possibility that lay ahead. No longer just a part of my past, but more. With a new dawn before them, they stepped forward together, into the brightness, and as they walked and the shadows faded into the distance, Sarah felt the air free of dread, open to dreams she'd forgotten she could ever carry. She would write her own narrative, unflinchingly, without the weight of fear. Now, as we close this chapter, let me urge you, if you don't want to miss the next exclusive stories unfolding just like this, you need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Smash that like button to feed the algorithm and keep our community thriving. We want to know your thoughts. Flood the comments with your reactions and theories about Sarah's journey. And for those friends who need to see this conclusion, don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 people. Your support truly makes a difference.